I wanted to do this presentation around the MLK day, which happened about 2 weeks ago, but I was procrastinating and I couldn't get the momentum to do this. Sorry about that. I want to title this presentation Designing Purpose because I think we tend to typically define the purpose, and that's probably not the correct way. A purpose, when designed properly, it should be inspiring to employees. But the typical purpose or vision or goal that we set, something like if you're a startup, becoming a unicorn is fashionable. I have set targets like grow revenues to 100 million, profitability, market share, being number one in a market, and so on. Even something seemingly inspiring, like one of a kind or unique or first time in the world or geography, even those things don't seem to inspire people. So I believe that we should take a design process to define the purpose and not directly define the purpose in the back room within the leadership team and things like that. We covered this a little bit already, but inspiration is the best tool we have to get employees' commitment, which is the highest level of cooperation we can get from employees. So that's when they put their discretionary effort. But if we don't use inspiration, we either get resistance or compliance, which is not what we want. We want commitment. So inspiration is super important for that. Now, I identified 5 ways to inspire. You can bring messianic zeal, like what MLK Jr. did. His speech, his work galvanized the civil rights movement and changed the American society forever. Or you could do this, what I call the unattainable ideal. This particular poster of Bruce Lee adorns my wall right above my desktop, and I look at it every day. Even though I will never be a martial arts professional or become like Bruce Lee, I am inspired by his work, and every day I keep looking at this poster for inspiration. I don't believe that the first two strategies are viable in the corporate. Leading by example, I think, is highly doable, and we may already be doing it. If you want people to come on time, you show up on time first. The fourth one is what I call relatable role model, or more popularly called champions. You set up people who are displaying a particular behavior that you want as champions. In the managed innovation program that I led, which also created a $1 billion impact, we created thousands of champions across Cognizant using whom we could inspire tens of thousands of people to become innovators. So that is doable in the corporate. The fifth one or is the extreme objectives, which we covered a little bit last time. In the last episode, several people asked which kind of extreme objectives work, isn't that too risky, and so on. So that's what I'm trying to answer today. The inspiration for this particular strategy of extreme objectives came from Built to Last, where outlined this idea of a BHAG. Now, in the book, they list 12 BHAGs, which they talk about, and I picked a few of them which worked and which didn't work. For example, Walmart in the year 1990 set themselves a sales target of 125 billion by the year 2000, which they reached only in 2012. So I'm not sure that that worked. Whereas a Boeing 727 or Sony's pocketable transistor radio did really work. Now, Collins and Pora say that a specific BHUG, the more specific the BHUG is, it works better. Even though Walmart fits that particular standard, it still didn't work. Motorola's Iridium project, quite specific and well defined, but it still didn't work. So I believe that specificity alone is not enough. You need an X factor. And that comes from my constant self-flagellation question about why I didn't come up with Uber, which I covered a little bit in the series before. I came up with this idea that problems are revealed when there are unmet expectations. Now, why I didn't come up with Uber, or why any of you didn't come up with Uber, is because we didn't have the expectation that we will get a car where we are standing when we are standing right now, which is a new unimagined expectation that Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp set, and the rest is history, which is what we call as the phrase performance undersupply. It's a bottom of the iceberg phenomenon. It is somewhat tied to customer needs, but these are unperceived problems of customers. They yet don't know that this is what they want, which is what leads us to customer delight type of situation. So I think this performance undersupply is the X factor that we need. And if you set your extreme objectives around that, you create a more well-designed purpose, and then you can inspire your people. And if you look at the history of innovations, many of them in this chart that I've covered in the previous episodes, they all were inspirational for the employees of those companies. Now, I did talk about this attrition target that we set for ourselves of less than 5%. In the IT leadership team, we did sit down and brainstorm, and we created this vision and purpose. We strive to produce associate delight in a cost-effective manner. Now, to my dismay, every so often I would do a survey and I would find that only 20 to 30% of people knew this particular vision statement in the IT department, which had many thousand people. But then, luckily enough, what seemed to have worked for us are these extreme objectives that we had set ourselves to hit the associate delight as the North Star: 500 millisecond response time, 500% productivity gain, and no change management. There is a particular episode I did in the past about how we came up with all this, and you can go through that for more information. But I think this is a good strategy to design your purpose. Inspiration, I think, is a Swiss Army knife. Not only are employees happier, more engaged, they also feel more purposeful. So I think extreme objectives can deliver all of these goodies. Inspiration also supercharges learning. As the fifth discipline points out, the drive to learn is stronger than the sexual drive, or at least as strong as that. The typical corporate targets that we set, realistic 15 to 20% improvement, that does not promote learning, because people probably already know how to achieve those, and hence they don't lead to new learnings. Whereas when you set extreme objectives, when we set the 500% productivity gain and so on and so forth, we had to bring in design thinking, lean startup in 2010, even before lean startup was considered to be an important tool for large organizations. Jobs to be done, private cloud, DevOps, even before the phrase of DevOps became popular. So we had to bring in so many new methods to hit those goals, and we had to learn all of these things, right? They were all very, very new in the industry, enterprise app stores, and so on and so forth. So I think inspiration is very important for learning also. And in our last 7 years in Tiny Magic, we help our clients set these extreme objectives for each of our programs, and we do see that the participants are very inspired to pursue this, and this strategy does seem to work. Now, we did hit this less than 5% target in 3 years. Not only that, we hit the $1 billion business impact, even though that really we didn't directly pursue. So overall, I think designing purpose rather than defining it through a strategy of extreme objectives, which is connected to performance under supplies, which are unperceived customer needs, work the best for this purpose. And from a risk perspective, when you're targeting a performance under supply, since your customers don't yet have a perceived need for it, it lends itself to risk being lower, right? The customers are not really expecting it. So even if you didn't do it so well, they are willing to work with you on it, which is why I think through performance under supply and extreme objective, you can truly disrupt the industry. This is what Tiny Magic's mission is, and this is what we are helping our clients do.